Well, I mean, we got our feelers out. Not much more we can do tonight. All right. I'm just going to go through some files. You can go ahead and get going. Sorry? Go ahead. Unleash the Kraken. See you tomorrow morning.
Where am I going?
Dean, it's Valentine's Day. Your favorite holiday, remember? I mean, what do you always call it? Unattached Drifter Christmas?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, be that as it may, I don't know. Guess I'm not feeling it this year.
So you're not into bars full of lonely women?
I guess not. What?
It's when a dog doesn't eat. That's when you know something's really wrong.
Welcome to Idling in the Impala, a podcast by and for lovers of supernatural and the fan fiction it inspires. Before we begin, just want to remind you to like, subscribe, or follow wherever you listen to us so you don't miss any episodes or bonus stuff that we do. I'm Sandra.
I'm Karlee, and happy Valentine's Day!
Yay!
Because it's Tuesday, so it's a new episode, so happy Valentine's Day.
Dean's favorite holiday.
What is it? Unattached Drifter Christmas?
Yeah.
Happy Unattached Drifter Christmas. So, in the theme of all things love and romance and all that good stuff, we thought we would take a little bit of a look into the sexuality of Sam and Dean, but not in the way you think. We're not going to sit here and be like, oh, what if they were gay, though? Because that's been done. That's been done so many times. What we're going to look at is Sam and Dean's relationship with romance and with sex. So,
and I just wanted to mention that I know I got inspired listening to an episode of the Supernatural Opinions podcast, and they discussed love languages of characters on Supernatural, and they kind of deep dived into that. So I'm going to make sure that we add a link to like that episode in particular, and thank KJ for like giving us the idea, because then we're like, oh, but what about? And then we started off on tangents, and Karlee was like, demi-romantic, I'm like, whoa. I'm like, okay, we've got to look into this. And
please help, I need a dictionary.
Yeah, I've got a lot of tabs open too now, and I'm kind of like,
so many tabs, guys. I've got loads.
I don't know how we want to. This is a work in progress, everybody that's listening, and this stuff may get cut out or whatever. But like, we're trying to figure out. There's no table. There's no guidelines.
She's so upset.
The rails are off.
She's so upset.
We don't know what we're doing
like,
here.
Needed a table. I will say, I offered. I was like, "How long is it going to take you to knock the table?" She's like, "Nope, not in this time frame. Nada." So we are going forward, tableless. Sandra is not happy, and you know what? For once, I kind of feel like I'm flailing a little bit. We definitely should have prepared a little bit harder for this episode. But when have we ever pretended to be professionals?
Yeah.
So I suppose I was thinking about this before Sandra came to me and was like, I've listened to this episode, and I think this. So I was thinking about this, and I was like, I can't even remember what prompted it, but I was like, I think Sam might be demisexual. And this was in a group chat with Sandra and our friend Dee. And I was like, I think he might be demisexual. And they both went, what's that? And I was like, it's where you don't necessarily feel sexual attraction to somebody unless you have a bond with them. And I started like pulling out references of like all the time Sam doesn't get laid in 15 seasons, which is there's a lot of times that we counted it out. And if you don't count him being soulless, which we decided we weren't going to count because that seems unfair, it's 7 times in 15 seasons that boy gets laid. And I don't think that's from lack of opportunity. He's a good looking boy. So I was like, I think this. But I was saying to them, I was like, I don't know if that's as a result of trauma or if that's just the way that he is. So we're going along and we're just chatting about it. And we'll like, obviously we'll circle back and we'll get into the nitty gritty of that. But then I was like, I also think Dean could be aromantic, as in does not feel romantic attraction. Dee was not happy with this. Dee strongly disagreed with me. She was like, no. He feels romantic attraction. And I was like, does he? She's like, he's very romantic. And I was like, Is or does he just say what he needs to say to get girls into bed? And then she was like, he doesn't need to lie. And Dee, if you're listening, I'm only poking fun a little bit. I don't genuinely disagree with what you said. So that kind of prompts another discussion, because you can't deny that Dean gets laid every chance he gets. But that's all it is. It's just casual sex. Sam has more long-term partners than Dean does in the whole show. So that's kind of where this began for me. What did you kind of think after listening to the Supernatural Opinions podcast, Sandra? Where were you kind of leaning?
Well, so I think too, like, just thinking about like how for Dean, like, love is like action, I think. And they were a little like, he's not really very touchy-feely and stuff. I said, well, he's not really touchy-feely, but I feel like he wants to be touchy-feely. So it's like those kinds of like aspects of like where they try, like what their love language is and what they would like, what they don't like, in terms of like gifts or different things like that. So then I think when you started in the thread and started talking about, you know, all this other stuff, aromantic, demisexual, and I think D got, like you said, D got a little bit like, no, he's romantic. I find that the flirting isn't necessarily, he's definitely a flirt. He's full on flirt.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a romantic thing. I think that's just kind of like what you said, kind of like how he works people over or gets to the next point. I don't find flirting to necessarily be romantic. I find romantic to be more the way you think of someone and how you romanticize them in your head. I will say, knowing how I've written Dean in fanfic, I think there's the possibility that he could get there. I don't think he's necessarily there. And I think that might be where Dee's at, because her rookie series definitely there's romantic gestures, I think, in there. Not a lot, but there are romantic gestures. And I think that it's either somebody you just know, kind of like we've been talking about, you just know when you know when somebody just has this romantic bent to them. Like my husband, I feel, is much more romantic than I am, which is weird because I write romance, but I can see it. I could see when someone else is doing it, and I can, you know, I see those parts and how they layer, how you take time to do this and this and this for someone, or, you know, bringing them flowers to me is a romantic gesture, or, you know, wanting to take them out, and like those things are romantic. I don't, and we're going to look at the list because I really need to like think about Dean with these partners and what we've seen, how much of that could even be considered romantic. I don't think I've seen a lot of romance. I've seen flirting, I've seen sexy, I've seen all of that from Dean. I can't say romantic.
So I suppose it's worth jumping at this point to say, being a romantic, demi-romantic, anything like that has nothing to do with the love that you feel for somebody. It's completely like, it's nothing. It's not like aromantic people can't fall in love, they don't feel love, anything like that. It's just everything you kind of think about when you think of having a crush on somebody, or, you know, catching feelings. Those kind of feelings don't necessarily happen to people who identify as aromantic. So I'm not saying that Dean is incapable of love. I'm certainly not saying, you know, that he doesn't enjoy sex or anything like that. It's completely different. I just don't think he doesn't.
I don't think he has a clue sometimes. Like I think I've seen, like full off. If we go into the whole, if we look at the Destiel thing and the way that they've shown certain situations or scenarios with Cass and Dean, he looks totally like lost in a lot of scenarios, like almost as lost as Cass does, and like, like that kind of thing. And I think in situations with when he's getting, there's that one scene where he gets hit on by Adam Rose, right? He's like totally like, what? Like, so yeah, I feel like and I know I'm getting things twisted up, but I feel like what he uses to get to a goal doesn't necessarily mean that he's experiencing romantic feelings or vibes with somebody. But like you said, he could still love them. It's just not this whole heart eyes when he thinks of somebody kind of situation. Does that make sense? Does that fall in line?
Yeah.
Because that could go for anybody. Because I mean, I'm just like staring at this romantic orientation thing that's got aromantic, biromantic, heteromantic, homoromantic, panromantic, polyromantic, gray romantic, demi-romantic. Oh, my head is hurting.
There are lots. So let's break it down into easier sort of, let's make this a little bit easier to digest. So if we say alloromantic is, I don't want to use the word normal because normal is bullshit word, but like alloromantic is typical. So it's very hard to describe this without using the word normal. But alloromantic or alloromanticism is just the normal feelings of romantic attraction to somebody. So it's probably something we've all felt, you know. It's so typical that it's difficult to actually pin down what it is. But you know, like the feelings that you get when you like have a crush on somebody,
butterflies in your
like
stomach, tingles,
butterflies,
you know, like
yeah.
you just start feeling really happy when you think about the person. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. All those kind of things that are just considered normal attraction. Then you would have grey romantic, which is that you only experience those attraction, those feelings rarely, or you do experience them, but they're weaker. Demi-romantic, which is you would only experience those feelings after you forged a strong emotional bond with someone. So, you know, like friends to lovers kind of thing. There has to be an existing emotional connection there before you begin to start thinking about being romantically attracted to that. And again, that is completely separate from physical attraction. Completely separate. And then obviously aromantic, which is you just don't feel those kind of feelings at all. You're not, you like in a previous episode, I've described myself. I am agender, 404 gender not found. I have no idea what it means. That same thing would apply to aromance and asexuality. You don't know what that feels like. You have no idea. It's just not a thing that exists. And no matter how many different ways people try to describe it to you, you're just like, well, no, no. I said aromantic for Dean because I wasn't, at the time of having this discussion with Sandra and Date, I didn't know these other labels that went along with that. But I think me and Sandra, as she said, we were chatting about this for quite a while before we started recording because we were like, haha, we're woefully unprepared. Fuck. We probably should have got on the same page here, but it was too late for a table, so we've got on regardless. I would classify Dean probably as grey romantic.
Yeah, I think so.
Potentially demi-romantic.
Yeah.
But, and I think the key thing that this comes down to is how much of that for both of them, and we'll get onto Sam in a minute, but for both of them, how much is that trauma and how much of that is just who they are?
Yeah.
Was Dean born that way in such that he would have grown up and still had these feelings? Or is it a trauma reaction to being hauled around the country all his life and never being able to forge even a friendship with somebody properly? And then, of course, Cassie, he thought she was it. This was going to be the one. And he told her, and she slammed the door in his face. If he was already iffy about whether this whole romance thing was going to work out for him, that probably would have put the final nail in the coffin there. So it's, and I don't have the answer. Do you have the answer, Sandra? Do you feel like you definitively know this?
No, I mean, but I I think again, you're just talking about nature versus nurture again. And I think it's probably a
Yeah.
combination of both for him. And I think seeing how, because we don't really know, even though there was this idealized version of, what John and Mary had, in terms of their marriage, we do know that Dean very early on kind of saw the cracks in the wall and that, their life wasn't perfect. And I wonder if he still got to see some romantic gestures or something between the two of them. Because I think that has a lot to do with what you're exposed to growing up. Like, if you have parents in your life that are together and you get to see a model of that, hopefully it's a positive model, but like whatever it is, you're going to probably take that on in some of your experiences with partners moving forward. Like I know I didn't see it growing up. I didn't see what it was like to have parents together and how they might, give each other a little kiss when someone's cooking, or like, sneak up behind them and give them, a little hug or something like that. So that kind of could be very alien. And those are romantic gestures. And I'm assuming, even if you've been with somebody for 30, 40 years, you might still feel that romantic attraction to them, even though it might wane a little bit here and there. So I think it's probably he just didn't have a model to base it off of, really. And you could say that for both of them. So then would he have turned out a little bit different? Maybe, because because I'm looking at your list, if we talk about the episode What Is and What Should Never Be in season 2 with the Jinn, where he's got this, he's in this dream state of what his life could have been like. He's with a partner that they say sweet little things to each other. I still don't think it's romantic when I'm thinking about how he's responding to her.
I think for me, the what we see, because we didn't ever see him and Cassie, we only saw them meeting up again. But the situations we see Dean in a romantic relationship are forced.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, in What Is and Should Never Be, he has the
Mm-hmm.
girlfriend, but he doesn't get it, does he? He's like,
Yeah.
what is happening right now?
Mm-hmm.
And then with Lisa,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's a whole mess, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't argue would he have gone there if he wasn't forced? Probably
Yeah.
not. Did he seek it out? No. Lisa was just, she was just this woman that he'd been with, and then, they bumped into each other again, they hooked up, whatever. And then I think it played on his mind a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't going to seek it back out, was he? He was like, well,
he was that was the closest thing to an apple pie life that he could immediately jump into after Sam told him that he wanted him to do that. And that,
but that's it.
Yeah.
Sam pushed him.
Yeah.
Dean was never gonna leave the life and go and do that. So it was still, I mean, he tried his best, whatever. And that's not to say that he wasn't romantic with Lisa, but you can make romantic gestures without any meaning behind them to you,
without the follow through, like really, like internally. Yeah, I think he was just like he was playing his role. He was being the provider. He was being all of that he needed to be. But I think it was very. I'm just going through the motions because this is what Sam wanted, and this is what I guess I need to do. And maybe at some point it was going to click. He thought it was going to click, and I was going to have this aha moment. And you could tell that's immediately not the case, because as soon as Sam comes back, it's just like back into
he drops them like
life. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not he angsts about it, but the things that he angsts about are not leaving Lisa.
It's more about their safety and security. I think that's what it is. Yeah,
it's leaving them unprotected. And what will happen to them if he leaves.
Yeah.
And he, you know, he makes his agreement with Lisa that he's going to come back when he can.
Mm-hmm.
But again, is he coming back just for a hookup? You don't know. I'm not saying that he doesn't want to spend time with Lisa. I'm not saying that he doesn't care for Lisa and Ben, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a typical. It's really hard to because there's nothing abnormal or atypical or anything about anybody that falls on these spectrums. But
I feel like it's a little muted.
Heteronormative,
Yeah,
or a norm. Society's expectation of a relationship society would expect it to be much harder to break away from someone that you spent a year with, that you forged a connection with, you know, that you, after a year together, some people would be saying that you would be in love with that person.
And Dean just switched it off.
And again,
yeah.
And again, this is not to say that Dean doesn't know how to love, because he 100% does.
Right.
But it doesn't seem to be difficult to break the emotional connection for him, between him and Lisa. And then as we get later on in the season, and their memories of him are completely wiped, and he has like one thing where he's like, if you mention them again, I'll punch you in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's never brought up again, is it? Ever? Yeah.
Because I feel like that becomes a situation where he feels responsible for that. So then that's just responsibility.
That could be a trauma response.
That's okay. I'm moving on. He learned how to compartmentalize, and maybe that's why it's a difficult thing for him too. All the different like schools, places they lived, jumping from place to place to place. You don't know how to establish a connection with somebody long term, or you never expect that's going to be consistent, constant, there. So he wouldn't know. Maybe that's why we get into that whole, maybe not necessarily aromantic, but gray romantic, or like, you know, once I'm in a place where I feel like I'm settled, maybe that would have changed a little bit more. And then some, you know, that romantic attraction could have flourished. I don't think he was ever given the opportunity to do that well without baggage.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Everything that happens is all wrapped up in the Winchester baggage, isn't it? We can sit here and go, oh, well, he did this with Lisa and he did that with Lisa, but in the words of the man himself, he turned up half out of his head with grief. Who knows who he would have been, what he could have been without, you know, for all we know, Dean's keeping a calendar somewhere and ticking days off, and when he's reached a set amount of days, he's going to go, well, I gave it my best shot, and fucking put a gun in his mouth.
Right.
You know, he said to Sam he'd try. Never said he'd try for the rest of his life. We don't know. I don't think he did. But, you know, I think it's really easy to say that this comes down to nurture over nature. The way that he was brought up has shaped the way he is. But Sam was brought up exactly the same way. And I don't think Sam is anywhere on the aromantic spectrum. In fact, I think he goes completely the other way. And he's on the sort of asexual spectrum, in that he can, you know, be physical with somebody without the bond, the reassurance that they're not going to leave in the morning. So, two boys brought up. Okay, Dean had like 4 years with Barry, but still, 4 is still very much your formative years. You're very much being shaped as who you are as a person at 4. The two boys brought up exactly the same, hauled from pillar to post all their life. One with a complete borderline inability to form a romantic relationship, and one who finds it very easy. No one can say that. Again, we didn't see a great deal of Sam and Jess, but you can't say Sam was just, you know, ticking the boxes, right? Like I think Dean was with Lisa.
And then I think that goes into the fact that a lot of, which is weird to think about it this way, but so Dean has an experience one way, but then Dean was also mainly responsible for bringing Sam up. So what did Sam get out of, was it just more freedom to experience things more quote unquote normally, to see maybe like, how the crushes happened in schools, and like, going to school, just flat out being able to go to school, like how different of an experience was Sam's because of maybe Dean trying to give him more of a normal apple pie life, or the chance at it situation. I don't know. It just gets me thinking, because no matter what, Sam was influenced a lot by Dean. I was saying to Karlee, my husband and I are like, we're watching season 15, and like, there's things that they're tying up and they're bringing out. And I just watched the one of the episodes where Sam's like, you were always there for me, like you were the constant, you were, and it's just like, how did that influence Sam growing up, and does that give him the chance to form more of a bond with people that then make him be able to be a little bit more romantic, or experience romance that way? So yeah, I don't know. It's so very complicated. I wish we did.
It is, and we're Sandra wishes at the table. We're not here to say definitively it is this or it is that. We're just speculating.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking based on what you said, Dean uses sex as affirmation. He uses that as that's how he makes himself feel good.
That's how he makes others feel good.
Yeah, and
that's
that
important.
Feeds back to him emotionally as well. It's something he's good at. It gives him pleasure. He can give his partner pleasure, and that makes him feel good as well. So Dean's whole self really is wrapped up in how good he can be for other people. He's a good hunter, and he puts pride in that, not because he's a good hunter, but because he saves people. We're assuming, a good lover. Again, not because he doesn't particularly have pride in that, although he does a little bit. But it's more wrapped up in he can please others, and then they will affirm him and tell him that he's good, he's done a good job. This is taking a very in my mind, as I'm thinking about what I'm going to say, I'm like, oh, this is taking a turn. This is taking a turn. But I think a lot of Dean's self-worth, pretty much all of it, is tied up in what he can do. Not who he is or anything like that, just what he can do. Because that's how he was raised. Look after your brother. Look after your brother. Look after your brother. And then it's, you need to be a good hunter to back your dad up. And Dean went looking for the reassurances that he needed anywhere he could find them, because they weren't coming from at home. And when you're a teenager, and you can get girls off or whatever, that makes a great reputation for yourself. And you build on those skills, and you walk out into your 20s and you're like, I don't have a lot, but I can do this one thing really well. So he went looking for that affirmation, whereas I think Sam, for all Dean teased him, which I think I don't have siblings, but I'm led to believe that's a part of the whole thing of having siblings. Dean never told Sam he couldn't. Whatever it was, he never said, you can't do that. He was always supportive. So
or
Sam didn't need to go looking.
If he did, because he has done it on occasion in some, it's usually to protect himself.
The end of season 5.
Yeah.
All of season 5. Yeah,
and he does it in they do a flashback in that god-awful episode in season 15 where he's kind of like, he's kind of telling Sam, oh, don't even bother. You're not going to be able to get into college. This is what a life is. Because he doesn't want to lose at that point in that scenario, which I still don't think was very accurate, but whatever. If we look at it, he didn't want to lose Sam, right? Like he just didn't want to lose Sam in his life. So he's like, well, if I just make him think that he can't do it, maybe he won't try. Then he comes to, he realizes his mistake at the end of the episode, in the flashback says a little something to Sammy to make him feel better and make him think he can do it. But those are instances where he might have done that, but again, I think it's more for his own protection, in some way too, for that.
I think it's worth remembering as well that anything negative that Dean might say out of fear is not going to be able to channel through the bedrock of trust that you build when you raise a child, which is what he did. He taught Sam to, eat with a knife and fork, to walk, to talk, to pee in the toilet, and that you can't do those things with a child unless you are constantly cheering them on. And once that sort of that foundation is established, I mean, you can burrow underneath it and collapse it, but you have to put a lot of effort in. And I think a few off remarks here and there would not have burrowed under that bedrock that Dean had established with Sam.
Yeah.
So Sam's not looking for affirmation of his worth like that. What Sam's looking for is stability. He, he's got all the self-esteem he needs. His brother believes in him. It's fine, but he's looking for stability. So he doesn't fuck around as much as Dean did when he was a kid, but he's chasing that stability, isn't he? He's chasing college. That's what he's going to do. He's going to work hard and he's going to get into college and he's going to get out of this life and he's going to have a normal life.
He's trying to find his place. He's trying to find his place. And I think that's Sam's kind of theme throughout, right? Like just finding his place. I don't think it's as set. I was just listening to a little bit of our interview with There Must Be a Lock. And Lou was how Sam's kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, never really knowing where he fits, where I think Dean knew where he fit. At the end of the day, Dean knew he was a good hunter, that was a life he fit into very easily. Every other kind of existence he couldn't. He fit into that, where I think Sam was constantly trying to figure that out. Like, where does he fit? And that, I think, lends into maybe his connections with other people, and then how he would be able to explore that and see, well, maybe I need to try this with Jessica. I'm willing to give myself the emotional, what's the word? Words. We write. We should be able
you can do this. You can do this.
Emotional vulnerability to try to make that connection. And I think Sam shows his vulnerability a lot more than Dean does. And that can lead to emotional connections. Maybe a little bit easier. Not that they happen often, but he might open the door to that more than, say, Dean would. And that then could lead into all these other identity spectrums, orientations that we're talking about too for him. But yeah, I think Jessica was probably a big leap for him, like a big chance into this. This is what life could look like. And I want to take this chance. And even though he didn't tell her everything, I think he told her as much as he could, that he was willing to, that, before he thought she's just going to think I'm just a crazy person. What the heck am I talking about? Or this can't be, a deal. That's just one thing that always kind of stuck with me too, is that he was with her a while, really had to keep that mask up a long time.
I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
In season 5, so we're like 4 years after Jess died, and Lucifer's trying to tempt Sam, and he comes to him in the form of Jessica in a dream a couple of times, and Sam's reaction to that is to be like, I miss you so much, I love you so much, which says to me that he holds on to those relationships with that stability. Once he can get it, finds it very difficult to let it go.
He still mentions her in like season 15. I just saw that again. Like, really? He's like, he's just like, I still think about Jessica. And I'm just like, wow. So you don't hear I don't remember hearing Dean ever really mention. I mean, he told Sam not to mention her, but I think he's stated things like I tried the apple pie life, but he doesn't necessarily state Lisa
Mm-hmm.
and how he thinks about her, or if he does. And
Yeah.
so I definitely think that connection just in the life, right? As long as Dean was in that, I don't think he would know how to make that work. Where I think he does say to Sam in season 15, he's like, if anything was going to work, it would be us with a hunter. And it's when he's talking about, that he's happy to see Sam trying to make a go or figure out something with Eileen. Again, he's giving his blessing to Sam. Like, this is good. This is good, Sam. Give this a try. See where it goes. Where he would probably not give himself that same ability. Like, he just wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I again, like rewatching the show, you're just like picking up on things and connecting dots and stuff. Yeah, Sam was still mentioned Jessica. I think mentioned her a couple times throughout. Like, I don't think it was just in season 5. I think he did it a couple times. So I feel that was probably one of his. Do you think that was his it in terms of like probably making relationships work?
It is difficult. We did say we didn't have any answers.
Mm-hmm.
We were just spitballing.
Yeah.
I just think, I suppose, to kind of just make sure like my points about like Sam being demisexual are quite clear. When we look at the people that Sam slept with, and again, I'm gonna discount soulless Sam like I would discount people Dean slept with when he was a demon.
Yeah.
I don't think that they count.
Yeah.
It only says he had sex with one person while he was a demon, but that's all we see. He never references having sex with anyone else. So we've got Jess, who's in a long-term relationship with. We've got Madison. I feel like you could say they'd struck a bond.
Yeah.
I don't think that wasn't just a hookup. They'd struck a bond.
Oh no, they made a point of
Ruby.
showing that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We've got Ruby. Now, Ruby's difficult because there's a lot of consent issues surrounding Ruby. And I'm not saying that she coerced Sam into sex with the demon blood, but I think the fact that Sam was in active addiction at the time muddies the waters a little bit. But you can't argue him and Ruby had a bond. However organic that bond was, it was there.
Yeah.
So we've got the doctor from season 4, Sex and Violence. That was just a completely random, casual hookup. And it was meant to throw you completely off that maybe she was the siren. But that's a completely random hookup. We don't count Krista in swap meet because that wasn't Sam. That was just Sam driving his meat. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like
he was busy when he was soulless.
When he was soulless. So we don't count soulless. Okay. So we've got Jessica, Madison, Ruby, the doctor. So that's 4. Amelia. And fucking Amelia in season 8. Fucking Amelia. But you can't argue that they didn't have a bond. It was a weird, I hit a dog yelling bond. But they certainly had a relationship. So that's 5. And then we've got Piper, completely casual hookup.
But he does ask for her number. And she said she didn't give it to him. So again.
Was he just being nice, though?
But he still asked.
Yeah, he attempted to make a connection.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we've got Eileen. It's never stated that him and Eileen have sex. But I think we're all adults here. We can probably assume that they did.
Yeah.
And it's still speculation. Is Eileen the blurry mum? In the last episode, we don't know. So that's 7 confirmed sexes with Sam. 2 of them are completely random hookups. And 6 of them are people he is shown to have either a long-term relationship or a significant emotional bond with. All these things point to Sam being demisexual, which is to say where's the definition? Feels sexually attracted to someone only after they've developed a strong or close emotional bond with them. That is not to say that people who identify as demisexual cannot or do not have casual sex. They can and they do. It's just probably not their preference, you know? Sometimes the body wants what the body wants, you know? Sometimes you get bored of your own hand. Sometimes you just have to go out and find somebody else to use their hand, metaphorically, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not to say that that doesn't happen, that demisexual people do not have hookups. So I feel like all of that falls in line with Sam. And Dean ribs him a lot about not getting laid. And Sam he responds with frustration because he's like, why are you so bothered about my junk? Go away. I could be crossing canon with fan fiction here. It happens a lot. But Sam's never like, oh, it's not for lack of trying, or I can't find anybody. He's just like, I'm just not that bothered. You know, my world doesn't end, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas, and again, it comes down to what they're seeking. Sam doesn't need that outside affirmation. What he wants is that connection. Dean needs the affirmation.
Morning. Is that a hickey?
And it was Valentine's Day. Wow, can't help it if I'm a hopeless romantic.
You got half of that right.
Still my civic duty. Helping all the single ladies. You know the best thing about February 14th? You don't have to be Mr. Right. Just Mr. Right now.
It's classy.
Yeah, what'd you do, judgy? Curl up in your Snuggie? Watch 50 Shades on cable?
Yeah. No.
I think Dean came to peace with being hauled all over the country a long time before Sam did.
Yeah.
You know? Dean was like, okay, this is my life, that's fine. Whereas Sam always wanted to settle down. So that's kind of, and again, we're not saying this is canon. We're not saying that we are 100% right. If you have a differing opinion, come and tell us about it. Let's have a chat, you know?
Yeah.
This is just our thoughts. And I think it's a much more interesting topic to explore than what if they fucked guys, though. Because maybe they did. We don't know. If you would like my personal opinion on what if they fucked guys, though, lol, I would say they probably both did for different reasons. But you could argue to me that they were both 100% completely heterosexual, and I could get on board with that. Or you could say to me that they were both completely bi or pansexual, and I could get on board with that either. So, yeah, I just don't think it's worth exploring any more than it's already been explored. But if you want to chat about that, you know, drop us a comment, drop us an email, let us know. We'll have a chat with you. What do you think, Sandra? Where do you stand on sexual orientation of the Winchesters? Sorry, I put you right on the spot there, didn't I?
I mean,
I keep doing that.
I think Sam's harder to pin down. I feel like either Dean would want to explore or has explored. Like, I feel like that's more possibility. Like, you know, dipping his toe wherever. Where I'm not just sure about Sam.
I definitely wrote down in an email about what I thought Sam's sexuality was. I mean, you can scroll back through my emails if you want. I can't remember what I said. I definitely was like, I think this, and also this for Sam. I personally, my personal headcanon is Dean is pan. He doesn't care. And my reasoning behind that is he's a hedonist. He knows that life's joys are fleeting.
Yeah.
And he will grab onto anything he thinks will be pleasurable, will be fun, will be good with both hands.
So I think the only reason I would say that maybe canon-wise it's not, I don't know if that's the thing, because I still get stuck on Dean thinking this is what a man is. Like, even when we talk about the conquering, right? Like, I just think of conquering, like how many ladies can he bed, you know, or he went here, he got this waitress. I think even if he was thinking about it or struggling with it in his mind. I don't know how much he would have done maybe necessarily in Canada. I think it's definitely possible. And we've talked about things that we think he's done to make sure there was food on the table for Sam, but that has nothing to do with sexuality. That's to do with just survival, right? So I always kind of flip back and forth with that. Like I mean, pansexual would make sense for Dean in terms of that, how much when he does enjoy something, how he's full on in it. And it's kind of like goes for it, doesn't matter. It's just there for the feeling it provides. And again, if he's very much a people pleaser, in bed, that could go lots of different ways, lots of different scenarios, lots of different things. So I mean, we know he's had situations where he's like, he had the triplets that he shared with Lee. And I still am like, well, does that mean they were in the same room? Did they switch off? Like when you say you split them evenly, how the hell does that work? Like
how does that, we have questions.
So it's like, that's kind of, I mean, I think experimenting. So with Sam, I don't know. Like I've never seen a situation where I got even a hint that he might have been attracted to a male. Maybe I missed something. I never got that.
We're talking about Dean or Sam?
No, I'm talking about Sam. Now I switched over to Sam. Because I've seen that with Dean. I've seen situations with Dean where you're like, why'd you make that comment? Why are you checking that person out? Like, like those kinds of things. Like it just makes me think that Dean's still struggling. But with Sam, I don't ever remember seeing a spot where, aside from somebody assuming they were a couple, right? Where did you ever see hints of that with Sam, I guess?
Yeah. I feel like Sam probably experimented
in college. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I do. And I know that's a real big cliche, but I do think he probably did. And then I think maybe, see, you're right. You don't really ever see that side of him, but I just don't know. I don't see Sam cutting himself off from an avenue of, of pleasure, of good times, for very similar reasons to Dean. Although I wouldn't say Sam is a hedonist in the same way that Dean is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he knows how, crap it can all get. Mm-hmm. And I don't see him turning away something that would make him feel good. But again, I can completely see your side of that and go, but he never showed any interest in the show. And you're right, he didn't. Dean's sexuality is ambiguous in the show. But I think Sam, I think Sam probably,
Because I'm even trying to think, did they ever? Because I mean, fan fiction ever, like, again, things get really muddy.
Is it a blur?
Yeah, but like,
am I blurring the lines?
In fanfic, I know there's always like there's assumptions like that they've shared a female or whatever, and like threesomes and stuff like that. But I don't ever remember like
it would have been mentioned if they did.
I feel like it would have, but I feel like Dean teases him so much. And again, why does Dean tease? Is he doing it to deflect or whatever? But I don't ever, I just don't, which again, like wouldn't be a big deal. I don't ever remember getting that. I never got that vibe from Sam, but I totally get that he could have experimented in college. Definitely. That could have been a thing. I just don't know if he would have like sought it out.
I don't know. I think the thing about siblings and that kind of thing is that it's, it's quite sexy in the abstract, isn't it? It's like, ooh, brothers, or ooh, twins, or whatever. Yeah. And then in the reality, you're like, oh shit, we're in really muddy incest waters here.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck. Ah.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't. Sam and Dean are close, but I don't know if they're that close. But maybe they are, because
well, remember like that
rated show.
Yeah, remember. So like damn it, season 4, the very first episode, Lazarus Rising, when they meet Pamela And she's all about like really both of them, right? And she's
you
like,
can come too grumpy.
and he's like, you are not invited. And I'm just like, going, is that just because he wants her all to himself? Or is he just like, no, hard pass. You are not allowed in any way, shape, or form.
I think it's the second one. I think he's like, nope.
Yeah.
No. If you want to go, you will wait. This is not happening at the same time. I don't know. I do think that's one of those, like, the fantasy is much better than the reality. Because I mean, if you wanted, if you were going to imagine that, why are you doing that to her? She's going to hit you in the face. Apologies, listeners. A cat's in the room. Sometimes they're here, sometimes they're not. And my boy cat is like, I'm going to wind my sister up. And he's being very cute. He's licking her in the head. And like, to anybody who doesn't know them, it's super cute. Oh, he's grooming his sister. Isn't that so nice? But he's doing it because he knows it pisses her off.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually she's going to get up and smack him in the face. And then she'll leave and he'll get her warm spot. So cat fights could be imminent. But yes, no, I think if someone said to you, you could have Sam and Dean, you know, you could be the filling in a Winchester sandwich. I don't think there's many male attracted people out there that would turn that down.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of the situation is that's going to be weird.
Well, it's kind of like what Dee always says, like, just make sure that it's just fully like all the attention's on me.
Yeah. I'm sitting here judging like I'm not judging, but I'm sitting here like fantasy is better than the reality. Like I didn't write a Winchester sandwich threesome.
Mm-hmm.
It was fucking
very
great. They
explicit instructions. Do not.
Yeah. Well, I thought in my writing of that, I was like, there's no way this cannot be addressed. They have told the reader, who is like female insert reader, I was like, they've told her that they're brothers, and now they're propositioning her to fuck. Nobody. I appreciate that if you had two Winchesters on your sofa, one of them is shirtless, and they're both like, hi, dick. You'd lose a lot of brain cells really fucking quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think you'd have at least 3 left to go. Together? Together? And in my personal story, they're both like, Jesus, fuck, no. Oh, God, no, we're not going to touch each other. Absolutely not. It's all you, baby. It's all you. And I'm very careful and nobody touches anybody. No male person touches any other male person. It's all fine.
Oh, goodness.
It all works out great. But, you know, like, it's a great fantasy. I just don't think it would work that great in reality. But if you put 2 stunningly handsome men, like Jared and Jensen, together and be like, they've spent their whole lives sharing cars and motel rooms.
Mm-hmm. They live
brains
together.
Gonna brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, they live together.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
update on the cat fight. Just update on the cat fight. He's gone back to cleaning himself, but he has woke her up. So he could be playing the long con here because she might get up and leave now. And if she does, he will get in her warm spot. But there was no blatting in the face. So that's always a bonus.
I think
you can cut that out, Sandra. It's fine.
fine.
We don't have to discuss
No, it's fine. I think the whole thing too, like going back to Dee's, I think like, no, he's romantic. Again, I think that's a lot of her and I wanting something more for Dean and wanting a relationship and wanting a connection for Dean. So I think that's where I know she's done it, and in the Some Sunny Days series, I mean, I'm very much I want him to feel like there's safety and you could show yourself and you're not going to get turned away. And I will say I'm very proud of there at the end of View to Winchester. There's a POV from Dean after he and Julie, finally, I'm going to call it make love because I feel like it's a very romantic scene.
Yes.
Where he does kind of think back to different scenarios and like what he did for his partners it was all about making sure they were fulfilled, and he wanted to, like you said, he wanted to do a good job. So it was like that was like paramount. And I think that can transition into feelings of romantic attraction for someone if you're given the opportunity to stay with them for an extended period of time. So I think it's always a possibility with him, with Dean. But I could see that. I could see why Dee was like, no, he's romantic. Because you want, I guess, because like you said, it's typical, right? It feels like that's what a relationship should have in it. Not necessarily all the time, but like a mix of a good relationship is feeling that way. Like I talk about, he feels this little tug inside of him. I think that's like the start of feeling romantic attraction with somebody too. Like you build on that, right? And you can kind of go off it the wrong way or completely backwards, but you could still get there if you're given time. And I think Sam maybe got time with people, even though, yeah, I mean, again, Dean had that year with Lisa, but again, I think he was just checking the boxes of this is what I need to do. It's different with just, this is what my life is now. This is a possibility. There's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he was there yet because he still had work to do with Sam, or wasn't ready to close that chapter. Still was looking for Sam, you know, with the hunting life, at least maybe on a, instead of dialed up to 10, maybe at like a 2, where it's just like the random werewolf or vampire or whatever, and not God or the apocalypse or whatever. I think Dean could have maybe gone down that path like he does with Rookie, you know, and has a life and stuff. So yeah, I could totally see where she's like, no.
Yeah, no, I totally get it as well. And it's, society tells you all the things that romance is supposed to feel like. And I don't think it would be difficult to mimic that if you felt so inclined. So that's not to say that Dean is incapable of romance or being romantic, just that
feeling
it doesn't
romantic.
necessarily, it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing to him as it does to the recipient of his romance. So I'm not, you know, don't come at me, girl. Don't come at me in the group chat and come yell at me. I'm not saying he's not romantic. I'm just saying maybe it doesn't have the feeling behind it that you would expect.
Yeah,
because I'm sure he's capable of being super romantic, even though we didn't see very much.
But if we go with gray romantic, it's that rarely or sometimes like that little teeny tiny percentage. So we're going to give that to Rookie, and we'll give the other little bit to Julie. And we'll say that's
our favorite
it.
Fix-Its.
Yeah. What was I going to say? I don't know.
We need a table. Oh my God.
This has been a struggle. This has been a very weird, Valentine's Day episode. I will say that. Happy Valentine's Day, but let's talk about all the ways that the boys don't show romantic. Don't have romantic feelings.
Hey, I will take no credit for this because you were the one that said, I think we should do this on Valentine's Day.
I know.
And I was like, if you want.
I think it'll work. It'll work. I think it works.
Tangentially.
So do we have any other thoughts? Or have we expended all of our thoughts on? Oh, we should say we took a quiz. I might put a quiz down in a link for a quiz. And
yeah, we can. Yeah, no, we took a quiz, and apparently both me and Sandra might be demi-romantic.
Yeah.
So the quiz was not clear.
I think all things considered, we did a relatively good job. We got where we needed to. We got where we needed to go. So we're good. But yes, please let us know your thoughts. Reach out to us. You can email us at idlingintheimpala@gmail.com, or you can reach us on Twitter at idlingintheimpala. If you'd like to make your voice a mail, no one's done this yet, but it'd be great if somebody did. Check the description for a link to send us a voice message. You can find links to our personal socials and our AO3 accounts in the description. And big sigh, there's also a link to my author website with my original fiction. That was a lot. That was a lot. Go ahead, Karlee.
Oh my God, this episode. I'm just going to title this The Hot Mess. Jeez Louise. Okay. Also, in the descriptions will be the links to our Ko-fi page. If you think, hey, those two are a fucking disaster, I should give them some money so they can be more professional. If you want to and you are able, there is a link to our Ko-fi so you can give us a donation. As it stands currently, at time of recording, there is a link to our merch site in the description as well. That may change. We are revamping and we are potentially looking at a new merch supplier, so this may or may not still be relevant when this comes out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, leave us a comment or a review if you wanna. It means that you won't miss out on any content, and we love comments. Comment at us, guys. We like it.
Yeah.
So with that, we will say thank you for joining us in the backseat, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.